litre-class supersport machines, the quintessential performance icons. The flagship that every motorcycle maker wants to show off as the halo bike. This right here is Kawasaki's 2021 ZX-10R. But at Kawasaki, things are a bit different. The flagship motorcycles usually compete for the title of being the world's fastest motorcycles. The 12R, the 14R and now the H2. And in doing that, they've often overshadowed the 10R. But just because it's in the shadows doesn't mean that it's any less capable. It's a ninja after all. And this right here is the newest warrior in that bloodline. It's natural for anyone to expect the technologies of the flagship to filter down to the smaller vehicles in the portfolio. But the H2 only lends the 10R its aerodynamic bodywork and not the supercharger, because the World Superbike Championship simply wouldn't allow it. But the outgoing engine and chassis combination has won 6 world titles for Kawasaki. That's not luck, that's pure domination. And if Jonathan could win so many championships without a supercharger, I don't see a reason why anyone else should complain about the lack of it on the new 10R. Kawasaki have yet again gone with the why fix it if it ain't broke attitude. The engine and the chassis have been carried forward with very minor advancements. So if you think about it, the new 10R gets all the aerodynamic advantages of the H2 while it gets its mechanicals derived WSBK race winning motorcycle. So you want brag rights? There are plenty of them. Let's start listing them down. Deception is what ninjas are extremely good at, and the 10R follows in that tradition. The mean green machines may not have the MotoGP connections anymore, but there is tech from the Premier Class Racing neatly integrated into that bodywork. Unlike the ungainly wings seen on the most new supersport monsters, the 10R neatly integrates these next to the tiny-eyed LED headlamps, with the exhaust for this airflow achieved with the gills below the handlebars. So on the previous 10R, if you've complained about a floaty feel under hard acceleration or coming hard out of corners, all of that is ideally sorted with this particular motorcycle. It feels nice and agile. Now to put numbers to all of that, those winglets that you see here, they give this motorcycle about 17% extra downforce, whereas the overall aerodynamic efficiency has gone up by 7%. To that effect, the new visor gives you 40mm more headroom to tuck behind, which seems to work best if you're under 6 feet tall. Unlike the previous bike, it doesn't need vents around the screen to reduce drag and buffeting either. The engine's gone more silent now thanks to the new emissions. And the low end is softer than before. And that has been geared such for 2 reasons. 1, to give it the motorcycle a more tidy acceleration, and 2, to preserve the tires, because these Bridgestone RS11s are sticky rubber designed for both road and track, which makes them slightly softer than the regular road rubber on other motorcycles. While brutal acceleration would make you laugh out loud inside the helmet, unevenly worn tires mean that the handling characteristics won't feel great for long. The tidier acceleration also means that the 10R is far more deceptive now, and you won't even realize that you are doing some ridiculously high speeds even on the street. But the sober low end also means that around tight bends or tracks, you may feel the need to keep the engine on the boil all the time. To that effect, the mid and the top end are just as strong as you would expect of a premier litre class machine, meaning that the motorcycle is always likely to have more power than your skills. Should you need to go all guns blazing for drag races or race starts though, there is the Kawasaki launch control module, activated by simply pressing the mode and the selector switches simultaneously. Engaging it will lock the engine speed at 8000 RPM, gather the courage to dump the clutch, and the bike will launch towards the horizon, and it can hit 100 km an hour from standstill in less than 3 seconds, or 200 in under 10. My guts could only manage the sprint in 3.2 seconds. Any more runs and I would have probably burst them. The fact that the 10R is still one of the most compact and therefore cramped litre-class track tools only makes it worse. It will take less than 3 seconds to tell you how unfit you are, with all the muscles in your body starting to cramp up. If you have a lean racer board though, you might appreciate the revised ergonomics. The weight bias has been shifted 0.2% to the front, the seat is a bit steeper, the handlebars are flatter and move forward, there are minor modifications to the trail, the foot pegs have moved up, and the swing arm is longer by 8mm and has a pivot point that has moved down by 1mm to achieve a longer wheelbase. All these changes have made the riding posture a bit aggressive, but you would have to ride the new machine and the older one back to back to understand the differences, especially in the front end. Now if the foot pegs, they feel a bit too high up for you, or if the handlebars feel a bit too cumbersome, need you to stretch out, get you to look awkwardly into a corner, in that case, the solution is simple. You just need adjustable pegs and bars. Further changes to the chassis elements come in the form of marginally softer springs in the Proven Showa balance free forks and a stiffer rear spring. Both ends of the suspension are fully adjustable, and even out of the box, you will be astonished at how well damped the feeling is for a super sport on the street, without compromising on the track-worthy handling characteristics. I have had fancier electronic suspension feel more bone-jarring than some of the Ninja's rivals. In comparison, this one doesn't feel like that, but the electronic suspension can be adjusted at the touch of a button. This one is going to need tools, which is easy, and knowledge, which is difficult. After all, Kawasaki can't give you everything at this price, can they? But they have still managed to blow the competition out of the water on this one. Despite being one of the most affordable litre-class machines out there, it has all the electronics that you can think of. The aforementioned launch control, a lean-sensitive ABS and traction control system, and an electronic steering damper. The IMU is 6-axis too, so many riders who have complained about frequent high sides on the 2016 to 2019 10Rs should find the new one a lot more reliable. Oh, and there is even the customizable engine brake control. But I found the latter to be a bit iffy. What I simply love is the quick shifter. It feels slicker than a Ducati or even the kind of blades that ninjas like to play with. Take your pick. Even for clutchless upshifts or downshifts at slow engine speeds, it feels nice and smooth. It's not clunky at all, unlike some of its rivals. And there's also cruise control now. So if you want to nurse your wrists or those muscle aches, well, you can do that with the cruise control, and like most new age Kawasaki's, you can also turn off the cruise control simply by closing the throttle an extra degree. There's also a simple yet functional TFT dash similar to all new Kawasaki's, and it pairs with your phone for Bluetooth telephony and ride logging. And though there is a programmable shift light right above it, the tachometer isn't as legible as the brightly lit unit on the outgoing motorcycle. But the bottom line is, the 10R is loaded to its gills whether or not you like silicon trickery, and having all of this at this particular price point simply makes its class rivals sound illogical. So how does it all come together? Exceptionally well. The Ninja is easily the most friendly litre-class supersport for the road. It soaks in all the bumps surprisingly well, brakes well even on undulated surfaces, and on smoother patches of tarmac, it drops the anchor with authority. So I'm not complaining about the lack of the Brembo Stylema calipers over the relatively old M50s that the 2021 10R continues to use. Interestingly, you won't have to summon these brakes as often as the outgoing model to get sure-footed turn-ins into a corner. The revised geometry makes the 10R significantly nimbler and sharper than before, needing much less effort to chuck this monster into a corner than something like the S1000RR or the Ducati V4. And while the quieter exhaust and the superb aerodynamics may make the motorcycle deceptively fast, the Ninja does feel like a 213 PS monster whether or not you exploit that ram air induction. Sure, your supersport buddies could make fun of you, make jokes about the tail being too similar to the outgoing bike, not too many changes on the new machine. But then again, you can rub it in their face by making sure that that tail light is the only thing that they can see, because the new 10R is totally capable of doing all of that. You don't have to take my word for it. All you need to do is tune into WSBK and let Johnny do all the talking.